Hello, my angels. Some very warm welcome back to the Library's Open. So I hope you've brought your library cards, darlings. 2 weeks in a row, aren't you lucky? Or not, as the case may be. Just jumping on to have a little gossipy chinwag of a little mini vlog this week, she said, optimistically, with the full awareness that whenever I set out to do sort of mini vlogs or whatever, they always end up being pretty much the same length anyway, because I can't stop talking. So there we go. I'm cheating on tea this week, I have to say. I'm having a decaf coffee, which I'm warming to in my dotage. A bit of ASMR coffee there for you. And I'm drinking it from this delightful cup, this Spice Girls Spice World official merchandise cup that was a gift from the very lovely Will and Chris, who are good pals of those vegan guys and the vegan queens, who are linked below as always. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to drink from today. And I'm wearing as well, let me just show you this. Look, it's me on a t-shirt. Well, it's a sweatshirt actually, but you can get t-shirts. Wearing some of the new Vegan Queens line from the what have we called this line? London Gals. This is from when Miasma and Gemini went down to Parliament Square with Generation V to launch the Rishi Sunak campaign, which you can find on the Vegan Queens channel, as I say, linked below. If you did want any merch from TVQ, that's always linked in the description as well. So yeah, I thought I'd just jump on and do a little chinwaggy kind of chat. Because, you know, I was having come back to the channel after having an extensive break. I was just thinking, what kind of content do I want to put out? And then I was getting into that mindset of thinking, I have to do this kind of content, I have to do that kind of content. And I don't think that's true at all. And I think, you know, you can talk your way out of doing, you know, anything, can't you? So I thought, just carry on, just keep talking. So I thought I'd just tell you what I'm reading this week and what's going on with me, if that's cool. Well, that's lovely. So I've got into this habit lately of, I say lately, it's been for quite a while now, of reading like 2 books at once, which, you know, and I sort of interrogated why that might be. I thought, is this just like a weird kind of numbers game where I'm just trying to read more books for the sake of saying that I've read more? And I don't think it is, actually. I think it's more like, which is something we discussed at our book club the other week, I think it's more about having like a little break from things, well, particularly when you're reading heavier things or maybe a particular genre and you just want to be able to dip in and out of different things, you know, and just have a little bit of respite, I suppose. Because I found lately that, you know, certain genres, certain books have been absolute page turners, and I've just been on the edge of my seat, just you know, turning page after page, and I've been able to read something in, you know, less than 24 hours, not because I intended to, because I don't think there's a virtue in reading more or at speed or anything like that, but more, I suppose, just because that's how the mood takes me when I'm really immersed in it. And then other things have taken longer, but I don't think that's necessarily anything to do with either the quality or the content of what I'm reading. It's more particular genres or particular styles or particular topics even, maybe, lend themselves to being page turners. I mean, let's face it, that's where the thriller genre thrives, isn't it? You know, it is all about that kind of compulsive one more page, one more chapter, which is quite lovely in some respects because it reminds me a lot of being a kid, you know, and being sometimes allowed to buy books. That makes it sound like I grew up in an awful regime or something. That's not true. I just meant that my parents had no money, so when we could afford books, it was like you wanted to sort of ration them out, but inevitably that wouldn't happen. So yeah, because I always read a lot as a kid, and you know, my mother, bless her heart, would endlessly be like, have you finished that already? That's ridiculous. So there we go. And you know, 30 odd years on, here we are. So yeah, what I'm reading at the moment is, I'm reading 2 quite different ones. I'm reading, although they do have connections, I'm reading Juja, or it could be Juja, I'm not sure, by, let me not butcher this now, Nino Haratischvili. I'm going to put that there. Apologise if my tongue won't get around that. That's my issue, obviously. Translated by Ruth Martin. Now, this is interesting because this is the debut novel, which has been, I believe, post re-released in the UK, following the how big The Eighth Life was, which I read and talked about on the channel quite a while back now. It was a massive book. This is relatively short. Yes, it says published for the first time in English. Now, this is really, really interesting because I was trying to think of how to describe what it's about, and the thing is that I don't know what it's really about. I mean, ostensibly, I know what it's about, but do you ever have those books where you just sort of, they seem to defy description or blurbing? That's not necessarily a bad thing at all. This is the one that's taking me a little bit longer because I'm sort of trying to figure out as I go along what's happening. But in kind of, you know, in what am I saying here? In the same way that The Eighth Life has various plot lines that kind of coalesce around a central theme, this book kind of does the same, and it's kind of based on in the 50s. There's this young woman who dies by suicide, and she leaves behind these writings that are, you know, sort of like biblical in their implications, and they read sort of like a stream of consciousness. I'm picturing a sort of French James Joyce or something, I don't know, and they seem to speak to what are described as like universal truths, particularly for women and their experiences in the world. And then it's finally published in the 1970s, and it sets off a rash of people dying by suicide. And then decades later, I think it's 2004, two women on different sides of the globe discover the writing, and they kind of set out on this mission to discover who this person was and kind of what was going on with the whole situation. And, you know, this is what I think the youth would call vibes at the moment, because we've kind of got the inklings of a plot. I'm about 102 pages in, and it's 279 pages. Oh, that's a lovely photo of the author. Lovely. I love it when they do proper big portraits of the authors, because I kind of think, you know what, this must have taken absolutely ages and so much effort, so you should get a full page. Anyway, so at the moment we're kind of jumping across like 4 different time periods with different protagonists in them. It could even be 5 actually, and different people, none of whom I'm particularly sure of who they are or what their kind of relevance in the story is as yet, but that's fine. As I say, I'm going with what the kids would call vibes at the moment, and just trying to soak up like the beauty of the translation, and just kind of enjoying that. So, because it reminds me a little bit of when I was at college, I had this tutor who we'd gone to see something. I can't remember who it was. I can't remember what company it was. It was a theatre company anyway, and they'd done a show. I think it was entirely movement based. It wasn't Deviate, but it was someone similar to that as a company. And you know, afterwards, or the day after, talking about it, and we were sort of all trying to describe what the show was. And you know, my tutor said, is it important to understand everything that you read or that you consume or that you watch? And I thought, no, actually it's not, is it? Because like the experience is valid, the emotional investment, the kind of the communal act, or the solo act, I guess, in reading, of watching, experiencing is enough. And maybe this kind of quest to try and like find the meaning all the time from the get-go, so you kind of know where you are, is in fact a form of trying to control something that you can't control. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. But so I'm trying to move away from that mindset, which I think we're all kind of grilled into, of like, we have to know exactly right now, otherwise it's not worth the investment. But yeah, so I'm pondering on that as I'm kind of steadily working my way through this. The good thing is it's actually quite short chapters, which is, you can have a little burst reading of it and then have a little think and stuff like that, so that's useful. And then kind of alongside that, which is moving a lot quicker, but probably understandably, I'm reading Hamlet Globe to Globe by Dominic Dromgoole, who's the former artistic director of the Globe Theatre in London. And now I bought this ages ago when I was actually directing Hamlet with the intention of reading it, and then I didn't, which is very useful, as I'm sure you can imagine. But actually, with hindsight, I'm kind of glad I didn't, because, you know, it's sort of, it's so easy to be influenced in the choices that you assume you're making independently, but have actually been influenced by other people. Anyway, that's by the by. So this is about a project that the Globe did in, what year was this? I believe it was, let me just double check so I'm not lying to you. They started in 2014, I think it was a 2-year project, and they produced Hamlet and then toured it to every country in the world in one form or another, with the it was kind of an answer back to, because previously what they'd done was they'd invited companies from all over the world to the Globe to produce their own versions in their own language of Shakespeare's plays, which is lovely. It's something we did in Hamlet as well, where we used the first languages of all the cast members kind of interspersed with the Shakespearean text. It was lovely. I think it's really nice, because I think Shakespeare still has that thing of people feeling like it doesn't belong to them, or, you know, that it's not written for them or about them. And, well, of course it is a historical document in its literal sense. It is also, there's a reason it endures, and the reason that it endures is its kind of universality, is what scholarship would tell you. So actually, the fact is that it kind of doesn't belong to anyone, although it is often, you know, parroted as this kind of big British cultural thing. But, and, you know, there's a lot of disputes about Shakespeare, about authorship and so on and so forth. My personal feelings on that are I don't really care who wrote it, or if several people wrote it, or if it was cobbled together by the actors who were in the plays. It doesn't matter. The fact is it exists. And, you know, we can go back and forth on you know, those claims of ownership and stuff like that, but actually isn't the communal experience of enjoying it together what matters, more than the authorship, I would argue? Because it's not like you can claim royalties now, is it? You know what I mean? We're a few centuries too late for that. It's definitely over copyright. Anyway, this is really lovely. So this is a kind of, it's almost like, it's like a travel memoir almost, that also documents what the experience is of the company taking the show to different places, how it resonates in different countries based on kind of where they are, you know, politically and historically and stuff. Just read a lovely chapter about Phnom Penh and the kind of history of that region, and how other world powers have played their role in shaping what the politics and the kind of what is that on my face? Sorry, red face. Sorry, I apologise for that. I should have done a warning before I zoomed right in on my face. So yeah, it sort of talks about how those, you know, the actions of other countries in the globe shape what the experience is in one particular country. I'm currently reading a chapter set in, I believe, Saudi Arabia, where they have to really struggle to kind of find a venue that will allow male and female actors to appear on stage together. And so it's a really interesting cultural document in that respect. It's a little bit like, I guess, reading a travel memoir, I suppose, or a travel log, but, you know, with the kind of added theory thing thrown in there, which is what piques my interest. I'd love to be the sort of person that could just read travel memoirs about, you know, things, but I just can't. I don't have that part of my brain unless it's got something else to hook onto. But yeah, this is going really, really quickly, and I'm quite enjoying it. It's always nice, I think, because, you know, my background career is in theatre. It's always nice to feel kind of connected to, you know, these big things that have happened in the profession and stuff, and kind of keep your hand in that way. And it also means I can pass this off as reading it for work. So there you go. Yeah, so that's what I'm reading this week, and what I'm thinking about and what I'm drinking from. That's just a little check-in, apropos of nothing. Hope you're well, my loves. Anyway, do let me know what you're reading at the moment. Do you find yourself struggling sometimes to commit just to one book, or do you have multiple on the go all at once? Do you you know, find particular genres like you can just speed through them, and others take a bit longer? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Just let me know. I'm really interested to hear what your thoughts are. So anyway, yes, and I knew it would happen. 15 minutes. So this short vlog is not a short vlog at all. It was a waffly, gossipy chinwag. But I hope you enjoyed it anyway. So I will see you in the next video put your library cards somewhere safe. Follow me on the socials if you want. Drop me a message, drop me a comment, anything you like. I'm always overjoyed to hear from you. The library is and remains open, as should our minds and hearts. All right, my angels, I will see you very soon. Ta-ra!